For decades, let's be honest, this stuff was on the fringe. But lately, something has totally changed. The United States government is now openly and seriously investigating unidentified objects in our skies, seas, and space. So, what's really going on? What is the government actually saying and doing? Let's get into the official story. And look, that's not some random UFO blogger talking. That is the actual head of the Pentagon's official UAP investigation office. I mean, that one quote, it just perfectly sets the stage. This whole thing has gone from being a joke to a serious matter of national security. So how did we even get here? Well, the big shift happened when the conversation stopped being about little green men and started being about a much more down-to-earth concern. Are we about to be technologically surprised? All of a sudden, these UAPs weren't just a weird curiosity. They were a potential threat, a danger to our pilots, and, a huge question mark. Has some other country developed some kind of breakthrough drone tech that we just can't explain? And this is the moment it all became official. Back in 2021, the Director of National Intelligence dropped what was, frankly, a bombshell report. It said, right out in the open, that out of 144 UAP incidents that military personnel had reported, they could only explain one of them. Just one. The other 143? A total mystery. And, buried deep in that report was this number, 18. 18 of those incidents seemed to show off some kind of, advanced technology. I'm talking about objects just hovering in crazy high winds, moving against the wind, making these sharp, impossible turns, or just zipping along at incredible speeds with no visible way of pushing themselves forward. No wings, no engines, nothing. Things got so serious that they even changed the language they use. The acronym UAP, it stuck around. But the A got a major upgrade. It went from aerial to anomalous. And trust me, that's not just playing with words. That one little change signaled a huge expansion of what they were looking into. So yeah, why is that one word so important? Well, anomalous means the Pentagon isn't just looking up at the sky anymore. They're looking everywhere, in the air, under the water, out in space, and even at these so-called transmedium objects, things that can supposedly move from the air straight into the water without a problem. It means the whole investigation just got a lot bigger, covering every single domain you can think of. Okay, so you've got this pile of unexplained reports getting bigger and bigger, and at the same time, you have Congress starting to really apply the pressure. The government pretty much had to get its act together. They realized they needed a real, permanent, structured way to deal with this whole thing. Now, if you follow this at all, you know it's been a total alphabet soup of different groups and programs. This timeline kinda helps clear it up. You can see how it evolved, right? From these shadowy, informal programs like ATIP to a more official task force, and then finally, to a real permanent office. And here it is. This is the big one, AARO, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. They set it up in 2022, and this is now the one-stop shop, the central hub for the entire U.S. government's UAP investigation. Its whole job is to get everyone, the DoD, all the other federal agencies, on the same page to detect, identify, and hopefully figure out what these things are. And AARO's mission, it's pretty extensive. We're not just talking about collecting grainy videos here. It's about creating a standard way for pilots to report things, digging into all the intelligence data, figuring out if these things are a threat, and even recommending new laws. Basically, it's a serious, buttoned-up, scientific effort. Okay, so we've got this new fancy office up and running. What have they actually found? This is where we cut through all the noise you see online and look at what the official reports are actually saying. All right, let's just get the big one out of the way right up front. AARO did this massive historical review, digging through everything the government has ever done related to UAPs, all the way back to 1945. And their conclusion, which they dropped in March 2024, was crystal clear. They said they found no empirical evidence, zero, of aliens, off-world tech, or some massive government cover-up of crashed saucers. But what about that story, right? The biggest one in the whole UAP world, that the government has a secret program stashed away somewhere trying to reverse engineer crashed alien ships. What do the actual documents say? Well, this recently declassified document gives us the real story. There was a proposal for a program called Kona Blue, and its goal was pretty much that, to get a hold of and study any non-human biologics. But, and this is the key part, it was just a proposal. It never actually happened. The Department of Homeland Security shot it down back in 2012 because they said it lacked merit. It never got funded, it was never created, and it never got its hands on any weird materials. So, if it's not aliens, then what in the world are people seeing? This data from a 2022 report gives us a pretty good idea. Out of 366 new reports, AARO was able to explain about half of them as, well, pretty boring stuff. Balloons, drones, even just plastic bags floating around. But check out that other number, 171. That many cases were left completely unexplained. They call them uncharacterized. And that is the real mystery that AARO is trying to solve right now. Now, it's not just the Pentagon and the intelligence agencies pushing this forward. Actually, one of the biggest players pushing for more transparency has been Congress. Yeah, in a pretty wild move, they tucked this landmarked piece of legislation inside the massive must-pass defense budget. It's called the UAP Disclosure Act of 2023. And this thing, which had support from both Democrats and Republicans, is basically designed to force the government's hand to declassify and release its UAP records. And it lays out a really clear process for how this is supposed to work. First, all government agencies have to find every UAP record they have. Then they all get sent to the National Archives, so they're all in one spot. After that, an independent review board gets to decide what can be declassified. And here's the best part. The default setting is for everything to be made public immediately. So, okay, you've got this new office, you've got new laws on the books, you've got a ton of new data coming in. Where does that leave us? Let's take a look at what happens next with this mystery that just won't go away. This table really breaks it down for us. So, for process, we now have a real system in place with AARO taking in hundreds of new reports. For findings, the official word is still no aliens, with about half the cases being solved as normal stuff and the other half still a big question mark. And for transparency, well, that Disclosure Act is now the law of the land. And yeah, the official line from the Pentagon is still very consistent, very cautious. Just like former Undersecretary of Defense Ronald Moultrie said, they haven't seen anything that makes them think it's aliens. But, and it's a big but, they also admit there's a whole lot they just can't explain. Not yet, anyway. And that, of course, leaves us with the ultimate question. For the very first time, the entire weight of the U.S. government, all its scientific, intelligence, and military power, is being pointed directly at this mystery. The stigma is pretty much gone, and in its place, we have a serious, data-driven investigation. But is all this effort finally going to give us the answers we've been looking for? Or is it just going to show us that the universe is a whole lot weirder than we ever thought?